They are understandably grieving the loss of their dog, who has been referred to as a fellow officer. We are sensitive to that. We know that they are interested in the outcome from bond to trial in this case, and that is clear. They are emotionally invested in it. This case is very important to them. This case is also important to David Morris, and we would ask, Your Honor, that at this point we set aside the motion and that we look at the law. I would ask that we set aside the motion and that he be given a bond.
October 21st, 2015, this whole case started with basically a false report. An individual who's also been charged in this case, Miss Dixon, had called in, said her car had been carjacked. Information went out on the police radio. At that point in time, Deputy Brandon Surratt is here, and is also Deputy Matthew Grant. Were in the area, in the Townville area. They saw the car that matched the description of one that has been carjacked. They turned around on it, the car took off. My understanding from Lieutenant Josh Payne, they were hitting speeds of over 100 miles per hour. Eventually, an individual by the name of Sergio Martin was driving this car. David Morris and a Martavius Craig, which I believe had come before you before, he was denied bond in this case. This was basically a robbery crew. They all had masks, they had guns, they were all wearing dark clothing. It was at that point they took a left turn on the New Prospect Church Road here. Anderson lost control of the car, went over, ran off the side of the road.
Out there by the church?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
At that point, they bailed out into the woods. Deputy Surratt and Grant were behind them, stopped, got out of their patrol vehicles. Deputy Surratt, whose canine partner was Deputy Hyco, he was turned loose at that point in time. The canine officer, at that point, as they were chasing through the woods, it was very thick in this woods, engaged the suspects. There was 3 of them there. At that point in time, he did latch hold of the one, and the one we feel is the one he bit, and also who shot him was David Morris. At that point...
Not this young man.
This young man, yes, sir.
This young man.
Yes, sir. Gunshots were fired at the officers. They returned gunfire also. Fortunately, none of the officers were hit. In this case, more likely, as I discussed this with Deputy Surratt, the dog saved either his life and or Deputy Grant's life. And I've been out there. The distance where the gunshots were fired from one another is very close.
My deputies went home because of the dog, and I feel like the death of Hyco has been brought up above it. But the bottom line is there was also shots fired at my deputies.
It's not only affecting me, but it's affecting my family. My little 4-year-old girl said the other day, "Daddy, I just want to throw a rope up to heaven and pull my dog back down." You don't know the hurt that hurts me. That today, that on that day, to see this man right here shoot my dog, my Hyco, my canine, I watched him do it, more or less fire shots at myself and the other deputies. He had no regard to me. He had no regard to anybody else. He was willing to take my life, Hyco's life, and Deputy Grant's life just for him to get away. So, Your Honor, I request that the bond be denied, because if he gets out looking at his criminal history, he shouldn't be out of jail. He should be in prison. There's at least 9 burglaries on there. And one burglary first could be 25 years. And I don't even know if he's 21 years old.
Mr. Morris was hiding in the car. He was not the one to turn himself in. And I'm here to support my officers and my department. And this was an emotional time for us. And it's always an emotional time when we have an officer shot, particularly a canine, but in particular, if it hadn't been the canine doing his job, it might have been Officer Surratt and Officer Grant. And this goes back to the individual. I stood in the courtroom a while ago when you were telling the other gentleman, when police come up to you, you stop. And they don't. And this particular individual is in the whole same category as everybody else that we chase day after day, the same individuals over and over and over. Stand behind my officer and ask for no bond.
He's entitled to a PR bond, in fact. However, if you believe he is a flight risk or you believe he's a danger to the community, you can set conditions to that bond. The statute's clear that you can do that, and it's also clear as to what factors that you look at. And I would like to address some of those factors.
Sure.
First of all, I don't believe David's a flight risk. I believe Mr. Campbell said he was from Seneca. He's not. He's from Anderson. Some of his family members are here today. I believe, Your Honor, he's not a flight risk. In addition, Your Honor, if you believe that he is of any danger in the community, you have the ability to set protections in place for the community by placing him on electronic monitoring, by placing him on house arrest. If you deny bond, Your Honor, then you're succumbing to the emotion of the case and not following the statutory law that allows him to have bond with limitations. And I would ask that you set a reasonable bond with limitations that you deem are appropriate.
With me, because I'm not trying to get too philosophical with you, but let's assume you did. I know you're not guilty. Let's assume you did. The irony of this is that dog saved their lives, okay? What is so ironic is he saved your life too. Because, or whoever shot him, let's just leave it at that. Let's talk hypothetically. You're not looking at the death penalty. And that's the irony of it, that if people hypothetically are out shooting at human officers and sort of a heroic canine dog, and they are, I mean, let's face it, they do things I wouldn't do. Gets in the way, or you shoot them, then you didn't kill the people. And that's the irony of it. This dog saved his life, their lives, and he saved your life, or whoever shot him. This thing is so emotional for everybody that I will allow you 90 days to refile for a bond. I suspect that within 90 days we can resolve. Somehow there's going to be a resolution. What's the max that this carries? 5?
5 for the police officers. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, y'all are two good lawyers. I mean, you've been a prosecutor, you're a prosecutor, you know where we're headed with this. I'm going to give